All right, guys. So this is Stu. A lot of you know him from I don't know way back when. Stu and I have been buddies for probably 4 or 5 years. I don't even know, somewhere in there. Mainly because my goal was to battle a lot of the content that he would put out for free. I wanted to like prove him wrong on so much of it, and then I took the free content and I utilized a lot of it inside of my business, and it helped me a lot. So with that being said, there is there's a lot of knowledge that's come from him that is I keep saying it's free. I mean, just listen to, hey, here's X, here's Y, here's the benefit of X, here's the benefit of Y, and he's moved himself a little bit into the expertise world of commercial real estate. I absolutely hate real estate. Matter of fact, there's probably nothing I hate worse right now because it gives me anxiety because I've failed at it a few times. And so when it comes to buying a building or anything like that, I would love to have as much knowledge as Stu does. For you guys, there is no freaking way I'm going to. So when he agreed to come on, I was stoked. He used to own a CrossFit affiliate. Did I miss anything on an intro?
No, you did great.
I didn't think so. Okay. So go ahead and start the screen share. I'm going to kind of shut up unless something really pops off. And if you guys want, I'll monitor the chat. But Stu, I may just stop you because this is recorded, and sometimes I can get things across pretty easily.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, and I've got a couple different slides that I've used. I'm not going to just keep the slide share up. I'll pull it in when it's necessary. So real quick, and if you guys want to do it via chat, the raise hand thing or whatever it is, how many of you guys in here are more interested in buying commercial real estate eventually, now, at some point? Or how many of you guys are more interested in, like, I need to know more about leasing properly. I've fucked up some leases in the past, or I'm not even sure about that process, just so I can kind of gauge the room. I want this to be valuable for everyone who's taken the time out of their busy day to be here. So in the chat, if you could put buy, lease, whatever, so I can kind of just gauge what the interest level truly is, that would be
it's going to be all purchasing, because these are
cool.
these are our higher tier owners.
Okay. Good deal. Awesome. And out of you guys, again, I'm going to make the assumption, you can just hit me up in here. I'm going to make the assumption you're talking about buying a property for the existing location versus I'm opening up a second or third and I'm looking to purchase an additional site for my corporately owned shops, because you get kind of into two different worlds when that happens. So cool. Existing locations, we're all looking to do that. Cool. Very good. All right. Now, when it comes to purchasing commercial real estate, you are in such a much better position to get a loan on a building than you are to get money for your gym. I have clients constantly. They can get, they can get a $200,000 loan to go back for their second PhD. All right, at Cal Berkeley, right? I can get them a $1.3 million loan to buy a building. I can't even get them a $200,000 loan to fucking put an addition onto their existing gym. Something happened during COVID beyond all the things that happened. And one of them was lenders and landlords realized that we collectively, small business, brick and mortar, service-based businesses, were not that safe of a bet. We're just not. Especially if anything were to ever happen that limited the amount of in-person services we can do. So the biggest thing, I don't know if anyone's signed a lease in the past, 18 to 24 months, landlords have a magnifying glass over financials. I'll get gyms that have a 4-year track record of doing well. They survived COVID. And we're still, the level of scrutiny that small business, brick and mortar, in-person shops get is still high. And that's on the leasing side. Now, on the banking side, it's a little bit different. On the banking side, there's also that asset that will be there. So even if you were to unfortunately have an unfortunate scenario in your business where things went south, there is a valuable asset there. You could probably sell it, pay off your loan, whatever you need to be. They feel more comfortable on that. But if anyone's trying to get financing for any new equipment, an expansion, anything, you've probably found it to be difficult. On the commercial real estate side, it's still a solid area for small businesses to go ahead and get lending because there's this asset tied to it. So the way I'm just going to break this down is a lot of people ask me, can I buy a building? And I go, I don't fucking know. I don't know if you can buy a building. But what I do know, if I look close enough, I can tell you whether you're bankable. Now, I'm not the bank, but we run gyms through DSCR, debt service coverage ratio analysis. We look at 24 months of P&Ls. We look at balance sheets, and we use a pretty.
Can you slow down real quick on the DSCR? Going over
Yeah.
that again. What that means on a Sesame Street level, Stu. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I've done
Yeah,
something like
Sesame
that.
Street level. So a debt service coverage ratio is what the bank's going to ask themselves about you, and all it means is, can they pay back the debt? If I'm going to loan you $1 million to buy this building, and that principal and interest payment is $10,000 a month, okay, just making up numbers, they need to see that you can comfortably service that debt. So a bank is going to look at, is their debt service coverage ratio typically in the ballpark of 1.2 or more? Meaning, for every $100,000 you borrow, could you pay back 120 over the life of the loan? 1.2.
Typically, that's a 30-year loan, and that's not a net owner benefit. I'm running my car through it. All right, that is just revenue only, or that would be, you need to show them that you're paying yourself a certain amount typically.
So the beautiful thing about DSCR is that they are going to allow you to add in. So they're looking at EBITDA-R. And if do we want to go down the rabbit hole of that?
No, sorry, I got too excited too quick. You keep going.
Okay. So all I need you, EBITDA, don't even worry about it. All I want you guys to know is you guys go ahead. You get to take all of your interest payments, taxes, amortization, depreciation, all that gets added back into your income. But the R is your rent. So if you went to the bank today and you showed them revenue, I do 400,000 a year. Expenses, I spend 200,000 a year. Net profit, 200,000 a year. Not bad. Solid. Great. You would get to go ahead, and any money you spent on rent, you get to add back into your income or take it out of your expenses, because you would no longer have that payment once you purchase a building. So, DSCR is, getting you guys to a 1.2 is typically not hard. If you're profitable, and I'm not saying like some months I am, some months I'm not. No, I'm consistently profitable. And I pay an amount to rent that's probably equal to fair market value or near in the neighborhood of. I would roll the dice, and if I just gun to my head, I'd say you're probably bankable. Probably. I don't know. We got to dig into the numbers. But that at a high level is like, am I bankable? And what I recommend for any of you guys who want to know definitively, you go to your local bank, hopefully the one that you have had a business relationship with. If you use the big guys, the Wells Fargo, the BOAs, do them. But I would recommend making some relationships, even though you don't bank with them, with local and regional banks. Ideally ones that have an SBA lending arm to them. And you walk in the door tomorrow, but you walk in it with a handful of papers, okay? You have them printed up, because they get knuckleheads all day. Hey, I want to know, can I get a loan? Can I be able to buy this? Would you give me this? That's all loan officers deal with. People who just have a handout wondering, can I get some money? Can I bug you and waste 2 hours of your fucking day to find out if I'm bankable? They get that all day. If you want to go to the top of the list and have them take you seriously, you walk in with this. 3 years business returns, all three. The previous year's everything. 3 years P&L, current day balance statement or balance sheet, and then a PFS, a personal financial statement. You walk in with those documents, either in an email attachment or you walk in paper, and you hand that to a loan officer. I promise you they call you back. I promise you they give you consideration. They're not going to give the other 20 applicants they've had that month who are just asking to waste their time. Would you crunch the numbers of my business and tell me what loan you would give me? That's what loan officers get. And they do it because that's how they make their money, is based on the loan commissions. But I'm telling you, you want to get special treatment, it's as simple as that. And for any of you guys who have a bookkeeper and a CPA, it's something that should be able to be prepared for you within 5 business days. Okay. How many of you guys are currently in a lease and the lease amount you pay is just God cheap? Like, you are so lucky to have this incredible lease situation. And if you have that, I've told many gym owners, I wouldn't recommend buying. You have a great lease. If you can lock that in long-term, great. If imminent doom is around the corner because they're selling the building or they've told you we are not renewing it at this rate, the bank will know, yeah, you're profitable, but you're profitable because you live in your mom's basement. Like you've never had to pay real fair market value rent yet. So they would run a model on your business as if, what would you pay at this loan amount? Or what would you even pay in the market today if you had to lease a space? And if that turns your numbers upside down in a negative way, that's something that could hurt you. But the first thing you're thinking of is not, can you buy a building? Because you can't. The bank can. It's, are you bankable? That's all you have to ask yourself. And then you can run some numbers preliminary and get this stuff. We can hop on a call and look at it. But essentially, if you walk in with that information, you let them know I'm interested in purchasing something, they'll be able to give you a general, they're not going to, there's not a pre-approval letter. It's not like getting a residential mortgage, but they'll say, hey, listen, based on what we see, we'd probably be good with something in this neighborhood. And that gets you going down that path or knowing, all right, this is potentially feasible. Or they might say to you, listen, we need to see some stronger financials. You have way too much debt. You have too much of this. You don't do this. They'll be very specific, and it's harsh to hear. It is, but it's a good wake-up call. But if any of you guys really want to do this, I recommend having this conversation with the bank tomorrow. The sooner the better. Don't wait for yourself to be like, I've got to get my numbers up before I go to the bank. That's like the prospects that are like, I got to get fit before I go to a CrossFit gym. Don't be that person. Yeah, don't be that person. Go in there, get financially naked in front of someone, in front of a stranger, and let them tell you what they see. It'll be very beneficial to you. Okay. So let's say we progress to the next stage. You are bankable. All right. I'm going to recommend you take advantage of the 504 or the 7A loan, which is through the SBA. Now, let me clarify. The SBA is not a bank. They have no money. They're a government organization that guarantees money to the bank. So when you get into an SBA loan product, the 504 or 7A, you've got 3 people throwing in cash. You've got a traditional regular bank put in 50%, a CDC, which is a certified development company, which is going to be providing the cash guaranteed by the SBA. They're going to put in 40%. And then there's you. They want you to have some stake in it. You're going to put in 10. Those are the 3 stakeholders in this equation. Now, there's the 504 and 7A are very similar. There are some differences. You can kind of do a basic Google search on those, but it's not really up to you as to which one you get. Your lender is going to tell you which one they're comfortable lending you. And they kind of have their portfolio. Like, we've done enough 504s, we're going 7A. Or we think a 7A is a better product for you because of this. So they will product fit you appropriately. But it's ultimately going to be up to them as to which one. I work with certain banks that don't do 504s. They only do 7As. And
so do you work with any banks with your company? Or I know maybe you're working on it, but have you worked with any banks maybe specific just to this coming up? Maybe online banks?
Oh, yeah. I have one key preferred lender. And if anyone's thinking they're bankable and they want like an introduction and all that stuff, let me know. I have one preferred lender for the SBA, east of the Mississippi. And then I've got a couple others that are good for SBA/traditional. There are some scenarios where if you have an investor, and we'll talk about investor scenarios, where a traditional loan may be better for you. Maybe better terms, better rates, there are some. The downside is a traditional loan today is going to be probably about 30% down versus 10% with an SBA. Okay. Now, in parallel, while you're having financing discussions, and you do not have financing discussions with one bank, you have financing discussions, I generally recommend up to 3 at the minimum. You need competing offers. You need to know what the market's value they're placing on you, right? Some banks have higher DSCR coverage requirements than others. So you want to shop this around, okay? I don't recommend any of you guys who've been working hard to get your credit right, walk in there, go pay $30 to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Get your annual credit report with a date on it credit score, and ask them not to do a hard credit pull until you decide to move forward with that. But they can use this updated credit score to run an analysis as to how bankable you are. Okay. That way you don't have people digging your credit left and right. Okay. Now, in parallel to doing this, you're creating your A team. There's very few scenarios in which I have someone take down a property, whether we're doing leasing or purchasing, and there's not some level of construction that's going to be needed. If you're leasing, you could potentially get TI, tenant improvement money from a landlord. All right. If you're purchasing, that's going to be on you. The seller's not going to pay for any of your construction. The nice thing about the SBA loan products, you can roll your construction costs into the SBA loans. It adds.
Stu, is that a big, so you, I know you did your building in design because you knew eventually you were going to get it out to a brewery, etc. And you don't talk about that a ton, but I know that. And then second, this is a big fucking deal because if you're actually going to use the money to roll into the loan, you need to have a 10, 15, 20-year plan. Like, do you agree or disagree? You know, even if it's your gym,
sure.
Am I going to build storage in the back? Am I going to do, climate control, things like that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So when you're buying commercial real estate, a lot of small business owners will say, well, I've been told that I can get a mortgage for cheaper than my rent. I say, yeah, that's true. But you never want to own commercial real estate if that's your motivating factor. Walk away from it today.
For sure.
Remember, guys, in your lease, your rent is the most money you'll pay. When you own a building, your mortgage is the least amount of money you pay every month. The least. Your HVAC goes out. I've got a 10,000 square foot warehouse. My HVAC takes a shit, 40 grand right there. Right? It's just like owning a home. Like there's shit that goes wrong with the home that's on you versus renting. You have a ceiling on how much you'll pay, triple nets aside and all that. But to Andrew's question on the construction, I generally recommend when I'm doing a financial analysis on a purchase, we're generally making an assumption, how long is the gym owner going to want to play gym owner before they go to cash in on their building by either leasing it out, which is what I did, or selling it. And at that stage, you've got to take that construction amount. You can play the depreciation game over the period of time. And what is the value in it? So when I moved into my building, guys, so I bought my building for $960,000. I had to put $375,000 of construction into it. So I got it, let's call it 1.3 all in. Well, that 375 we looked at on a 10-year window, and I felt comfortable that if I used all the drywall and the stupid built-in electrical outlets with the foam, all the stupid shit I bought, right? That didn't mean, like, at the end of the day, when I look at the amount of money I thought was going to improve client experience versus the amount of clients that actually use the shit, you're always way off. But if I went 10 years with it, then I felt good about that 375. If I would have been like, yeah, I'm only going to use it for 5 years, right? And then I'm going to get out. Well, the numbers, my investment doesn't look as good that way when you run the numbers. Luckily for me, when I leased my building out, the brewery reused every wall that I put up, every bathroom, every faucet, they took down one floating wall. So I felt good about them not coming in and just demolishing all the build out I had put into the property. And then you also look at what are you putting into from capital improvements. So HVAC, right? HVAC, electrical and plumbing, those are all capital improvements that increase the value of you renting or selling the property. But your drywall and the office you put in does not, because I promise you, if you go to lease it out, that other tenant may not have a use for it. And they're going to say, nah, I don't like that office there. I can't do the bathrooms there. So I'm going to need TI to fix all this so I can move into it. Or I'm going to need you to come down off the lease rate for a period of time. And that's where you kind of get into negotiations. But you guys have got to identify, we went down this rabbit hole, a team. GC, commercial, not residential. Okay. I don't care that your wife's dad's a residential GC. Don't use them. Okay. MEP engineers, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, and then an architect. You will spend money. I've got a gym owner. We look at a property. He was gung-ho on it. The numbers we're checking out. He dropped $3,000 on an architect to come in, do a drawing. The GC came in and provided a quote for free, and we got the MEP quote for free as well. But we did $3,000 on the architect. We did $3,000 on the appraisal. We did $3,000 approximately on an environmental study, which every property that you'll buy will have to have done. They go in the soil to make sure there's not a bunch of oil and contaminants, and it's a brownfield site, all that. So $9,000 out the door, he didn't get to take down the property. When we got to negotiations down the table, it didn't work out. And that happens. So you have to also realize this is not a cheap or an inexpensive game to get into. You will be spending cash out of pocket before the bank ever strokes you a check and deposits funds into your account to do this. So that's why you can't be on that fringe of that DSCR. You can't barely be able to afford. If you can't afford the appraisal and the this and the that, the $9,000, buying a building, I wouldn't recommend it at this point in time. But you will want these people here, because I'll tell you this right now. I've had people come to me in post. I leased the building. I bought a building. I did not have my team together, and I thought I could rezone it, or I thought I could put the bathrooms here, or I thought I could have enough parking, and I can't. What the fuck do I do now? And that's the situation. Again, this is an expensive game. You don't want to cheap out. It's like you don't want to get LASIK or a vasectomy off Groupon. Okay, don't be cheap on this stuff. It's too important. All right. So once you select a site, you go through the whole LOI, letter of intent. A letter of intent, just a non-legally binding letter saying, hey, here's the key talk. Here's the key negotiating points. This is what we're wanting to offer. Right? Kind of very similar if you guys have purchased homes. You have an earnest money deposit. There's a due diligence or an exam period. We're going to do a 30-day closing, blah, 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 blah. You just negotiate all of that in the LOI. You go under contract and you begin an examination period or a due diligence period, making sure the roof isn't fucked, the plumbing's okay. You get your GCs, your architects, your MEPs in there. You finalize all the drawings, everything during that period. So there's just so many different trains that have to leave the station at slightly different times, but they're all running in parallel for a large chunk of this process. If you've never been inside of project management before, I wasn't. I am not a project manager, and I don't speak Spanish. But there was my ass at that construction site every single day for 18 months. My Spanish didn't get that much better, but I feel like I got, a masterclass lesson in construction management, because I couldn't afford my GC said, hey, listen, I'll give you a project manager. It's going to run an extra 15%. Couldn't do it. I was tapped out. So your boy got to do it. And, I cost myself a lot of money. I did a lot of things wrong because I was the project manager and I had no idea what I was doing. I strongly encourage you to utilize the GCs or whoever the construction firms is, project manager. So you don't have, because these aren't like $300 or $3,000 mistakes. These are 5- and 6-figure mistakes.
So do you think, since we're all CrossFit gym owners, there's a few owners on here who do own their building, like Sean and Bridget. I can see him in there. And Sean's joke, he's laughing because some of the things you're saying are totally accurate. Do you ever think that it's beneficial to look at our membership, and if we have I know, not like your mom's brother's GC, like you said, but like to just sometimes even offer a percentage of the building to, you know what I'm saying? Like somehow rope.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into how for you guys to buy a building with no money down. I mean, Andrew's seen me do this math before at a presentation. Like, I believe the GC I used was a long-term personal training client. Great client of mine. He owned residential. He had done a handful of commercial. Again, in hindsight, he had some learning curve things that cost me money too, but that was the route I went because he did it for me at cost. So yes, I think the practicality of using your network of the membership base is great, but just realize for every corner you cut to save some money, on the other side of every risk is a scenario you have to be willing to accept. This might cost me 4 figures, 5 figures, 6 figures. So you just have to accept that. The nice thing when you hire a proper construction company, you create into that agreement, what is your overrun reserve? And generally most of them will reserve they'll have a profit margin of themselves and they're about 20%. And they'll want a little bit of reserve. And if they chew through the reserve because they messed something up or they quoted you wrong or something happened, you need to work into that contract that it chews into their profit margin. It doesn't come out of your pocket. So there's a lot of contractual stuff there you can get into. Anyway, and Andrew, I apologize. I'm not looking at the questions, right? If anything gets fired out question wise in that chat, will you just holler at me?
No, it's not. You got about 30 minutes. More than likely, people will drop 32.
Okay,
So
cool. So again, how this works, guys, you get the bank and the SBA partner up together, right? 50 and 40%. They get a loan to your commercial real estate holdings company. So you're going to go form a new LLC. Your gym is not buying this. You do not want your gym to buy this. You want to separate these two entities. So you create a commercial real estate holdings company, right? That CRE Holdco is going to get an SBA loan because you have a gym. And in the SBA world, your gym has to occupy 51% of the property. So if it's a 10,000 square foot property, your gym had better occupy 5,100 square feet, not a foot less. But what do you get to do with the remainder? Lease it out. That's what I did. I had over 45% of my mortgage paid for by subtenants. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. After that, that holdco goes out to the market, finds a building, finds a site, negotiates it, closes on it, the whole deal. And there is a purchase sales agreement and cash that is exchanged between the holdco, not your gym, the holdco and the seller. You give them money that the bank gave you, they give you a building. Now the holdco is going to sign a lease with the gym. You are signing a lease with you. And then you as a gym are going to pay rent to the holdco. So if you're profitable with your gym, meaning you guys take home money at the end of every month, you are now going to take home more money because your gym is paying rent just like it was yesterday, but it was paying it to someone else. Now the key, and this is where we like one of the things we really make sure to do with you in the financial projections and the analysis. What does that look like for you? Are you taking, is your mortgage 5,000? But with your property taxes, the building insurance, and the common area maintenance, we need to charge 7,000. Okay. Well, if 7,000's break even, because that's just your mortgage, property taxes, building insurance, and common area maintenance, do you want profit in your real estate holdings company? If so, maybe you should be paying 8,500. We have to analyze, because if you just pay your mortgage, you will get into such a bore position. It's not worth it. Don't do this deal. Don't buy a building. Do not pay just your mortgage and then hope at the end of the year you have enough for property taxes. Because the second one thing goes wrong, you won't have the money to fix the roof or the easement problem or the whatever it may be. So there's some significant financial analysis that has to go into this. When you're thinking of what should I pay in rent, it's a great question. We got to look at all the factors, property, all that stuff. And then from here, we're going through and boom, you get the lease. Yeah. So the lease signing gets done. And then again, you guys know how business works. So you got rent minus your operating expenses equals profit for the holding company. Your revenue minus operating expenses is your profit for the gym. And both of that now goes to you. I recommend you purchase a building that you can afford that creates profit for you. So you have profit coming in from that. And you have profit coming in from your gym. Both of those. Again, if you get to a situation where you can only afford to pay the mortgage, it was probably the wrong site to take down, in my opinion. Okay. Exiting. You really have two scenarios here for the most part. One, you lease the building like I did. I had a number, me and my business partner at the time had a number in a head. If someone's going to pay us this in either a purchase or a lease, we walk. He was just my partner in the real estate, not the gym. So that was a tough period because I didn't think we were going to get that offer as quickly as we did. So I bought the bill. We closed on it in 2016. And by 2021, I was signing a lease for the building on 2 10-year terms to a brewery out of San Antonio.
Dude, so when the number, sorry, I'm not taking your time because I've seen this. My favorite part about this presentation is that you don't even dream in the beginning. You basically just go in of how fucking hard this is.
No, it's so possible, really fucking hard.
Yeah. So this is the fun part. Now, Can you at least dream and be positive for a second about yourself? So you then had a number with your partner. What was this number going to pay you? What was it going to pay you after taxes? Like, what were you going to go then do? Because this is why I stay away from real estate, but it doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. It's just because I know where my skills are at. So what?
Yeah.
How did you come up with that number? Was it, hey, here's my expenses, what I need to pay for my daughter, what I need to put away for my financial? Like, what was the thought that went into that for you as a person?
Sure. So the way we looked at it, we had the note out there for 1.3 million, right? So 960 on the purchase price, 375 on the construction. 1.3. We knew we wanted to see at a bare minimum for us even to take a phone call, we're going to need to see a 2.5 multiplier. Okay. So that was us because I was 51%, he was 49. I knew how much money I wanted. He knew how much money he wanted. That would get the conversation started.
So buying the building at 3.25 million, that's what you guys wanted to see.
That would get the conversation started.
Okay.
However, remember, a building in commercial real estate, a building is worth what a tenant pays. So when you buy an empty building, it's not worth as much as a building that you would buy that had a tenant in it already. So investors in commercial real estate, they don't buy empty buildings unless they're developers. Most investors, like, they'll buy a Chipotle. There's in Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a Chipotle, my favorite one I go to, that's available right now for $4.5 million. And it spits out revenue after expenses of around $200,000 a year. You just buy that building. And as long as the amount you have to pay annually in the debt for the note on it is better than is less than $200,000 of net operating income, it might be a good idea. You fucking own a Chipotle, and at the end of everything, you take home $3,000, $4,000 a month. Fucking, that's my dream life.
Like, and you get free guacamole.
Yeah. So that's what investors look at. But for us as business owners, we've got to understand that our gym is likely not what we call HBU, the highest and best use. And mine wasn't. The amount of money I paid in rent, and I paid over my mortgage, over all that, nowhere, not even in the ballpark of what this brewery offered to pay. So my mortgage was on $7,600 a month, P&I. Add in my property taxes, add in everything else, I should probably be paying closer to like $9,500 to $10,000 a month. And then my rent, we would put it up to $15,000 a month because I wanted my real estate company to show profit. I took the profit of my gym down drastically. Okay, 15. And then I have a brewery knocking on my door. It's like, yeah, I'll pay you 30,000 plus every month for the next 20 years. And that 30 climbs because it goes up by 3% every year. Fuck. I mean,
yeah.
Do you blame me? I mean, like, trust me, I had a hard time selling out. But I did. And I sleep just fine.
So it's double. So
yeah. So for me, that was like, okay, was also as a gym owner, will I ever take home that amount of money in my best gym in my best life per month? Not likely. But will I ever take it home more passively? Yes. Owning real estate is not 100% passive. I promise you that. It is 99% more passive than owning a gym. So that's how I figured out the numbers for me personally. And that was just me and my business partner sitting down and having a conversation. What do we both want out of this? What would be our kind of fuck you number to walk away? And it's just a very open conversation you have to have. Traditional bank loans, big thing. They're fast, but they're going to be more expensive, more money down, but they will happen much quicker. SBA loans, slower, but definitely more cost effective if you don't have 10% down, right? Or if you have 10% down, but that's pretty much all you got, right? And you might need to bring an investor into this whole thing, okay? So what I would recommend from an investor standpoint, like a conversation from an investor standpoint, is to talk to you guys about this. And I think this will be a lot of value for you guys. Hopefully you guys, if you have questions on this. So a lot of you have some kind of 1% client that goes to your gym that maybe they already have buildings or they have money or they invest in this stuff and they might want to potentially invest in a building that you're going to buy. So let's talk about that. Where's my share screen button? Sorry. Let me know. Can everyone see?
Yeah, that's cool.
So an SBA, everyone can see? All right. So SBA loan, again, we have a 10% down payment. Remember, in a traditional, we have around a 30% down payment. down payment. All right. Let's say I don't have any money. Me and my partner went 50-50 on the down payment, but let's say I had $0 bills to do this. Okay. And I have an investor who wants to purchase commercial real estate. If he doesn't have me, right, because I'm the golden ticket, I'm his Charlie to the Wonka factory, because I have the small business. I get an SBA loan. My investor client, unless he's going to open up a small business, he's not getting an SBA loan. So he would have to go the 30% route on a traditional. But I got the golden ticket. So again, between 10% and 30%, I am effectively, theoretically, and with strong argument, worth around 20% equity just because I get him in the door of this really cool club called the SBA 504, the 7A. He could go buy a building himself. He's got the cash, but does he want to liquidate 30% of his cash to do it? No. Plus, what's the other benefit? Because when you're an investor, you not only have to put 30% down, but you also then, when you go and buy the bill, when you go ahead and, purchase a property, or if you purchase someone if you want to lease it out, you got to pay 6% in commissions to brokers. Then there's time. Let's say he gets a property himself and he's going to lease it out himself, or he hires a broker. You might be 18 to 24 months without a tenant. So there's all these factors that make working with one of us, a small business owner, really fucking attractive. He doesn't have to do 30% down. Okay.
Real quick, Stu, would the question, would the investor from the audience, would the investor have to sign a personal guarantee on the SBA loan?
100,000%.
100,000%.
Yes. Because you guys are going to be, if he's more than 25% owner in the commercial real estate holdings company, 100, he's going to be all in. And plus you want him to be. Because no offense, for gym owners, unless you have a lot of other assets, you don't look as good on paper. You want to, your investor is going to bolster that application if they have other assets as well, or they have cash that you don't, or whatever it may be. So yes, you do. But yeah, he saves all this. So think of it like this. If you guys are going to go ahead and the SBA is going to require a 10-year lease. Okay. Sometimes they'll require even longer, but they'll let you do maybe like a 10-year initial and then renewables. Depends on the length of the loan. Right. And let's say at the starting point, you get to be 20% owner with no money down. Your investor is going to be 80%. Okay. Now, every year that goes down, you are successfully paying the rent. And that rent is going to be rent. Hopefully it's a triple net lease. Rent plus operating expenses, which are taxes, property taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance. And then maybe even a little bit more into that. So let's say that all in the building's operating expenses with the note comes out to $5,000 a month. And then you guys build in a profit margin of another, $3,000 a month. All right. So here we get to our 8. And you're like, oh, that's not bad. I was paying $7,400 a month when I rented. And now I own half this motherfucker? Or eventually I'm going to own half this thing? This is great. But you don't own half of it yet today. You got to earn it. You didn't put any money into it. So how do we earn it? Every year you go in here, I would create a PA, a partnership agreement in this holdco that is going to increase your ownership every year you're successfully fulfilling your duties as a tenant. And then your investor hopefully got into this deal with you because they altruistically want you to see you have some ownership. So maybe you're going to go ahead and you're going to have some kind of, additional 3%, 1%, whatever it is, every year that you're in this. And again, there's a 10-year loan, or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At the end of the 10 years, you're up an additional 30% that could put you at 50-50. All right. Now that's a scenario. I've got we got a deal on the table right now where the investors, he agreed to 2%. Well, the
Hey,
owner
Stu, did they earn no interest on that then?
on the loan,
It's
yeah,
just
no, because it's your. I mean, if they're gonna, well, they're only earn interest if it's a loan. But they own this.
right.
They have equity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
have
can see
equity in it.
if it
So
was a loan, then yeah, my guess is they'd probably want some interest paid. But if it's an investment, because every year their asset is appreciating.
yes, it makes guys. I would bet if you have 50 members, I bet if you have 50 members, you have one of these one percenters. You might not even know it. Guaranteed, not guaranteed,
So
but
yeah,
Hey, Stu, I have a question for you.
yeah. What up?
Um, so I see you just took that arbitrary $3,000 a month as additional money that you're paying.
Yeah.
Um, that's
What
all,
margin would I recommend?
that's all coming out of your gym. And
Yeah.
80% of that's going to your investor. That just seems, I mean, I like your idea here, but that just seems, is that a little bit?
Great question from
coming
Bill.
in, that person, that guy or woman is coming in, they're going to get a solid tenant. They're going to get this real estate paid for. They're going to make some money. They're going to get it in, they're going to get appreciation. I would think that's a little strong.
Bill, would you give up 80% of $3,000 so you actually had a retirement plan at the end of this fucking thing that we call gym ownership?
Well, but I might want to stop. But if I could do it at 2,000.
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying you can't negotiate it, but think about it. So here's what I would work into the deal, Bill, because I agree with you. I would like to make this better for the gym owner.
Yeah.
Nobody, I don't know if you guys do residential shit. You see the speed that flips happen in residential. That's not the commercial real estate world. This property, likely you're going to go ahead and put in there, we are not selling the property for a minimum of 10 years and or one of these triggers happen, like some, X amount of price or whatever prices you guys agree on. But most people buying commercial real estate, investors, savvy investors, are not thinking of like, oh yeah, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to want to get out soon. So what you do is no distributions. Because this is not meant to be a huge cash flowing asset for him. It's meant to be a buy and hold. He has a reliable tenant, so he doesn't have to worry about defaults on his lease. Okay. He has someone he likes and wants to see be successful. Hopefully there's that altruistic element to it. But I would say no distributions until you're 10. At which point, Bill, we're now 50-50. And every $3,000 payment additional per month, you've actually been paying $1,500.
I get it.
So at the end of the 10 years, you're not 20-80 anymore. You're 50-50 at the end of 10. And then if you want to start taking distributions, because the other thing too is you want to stack those distributions in the real estate holdings company. Okay. Again, unless you have to get a clever accountant who's going to make, go ahead and now you're paying taxes on two different things. Just stack that in retained earnings in the commercial. That's what I did. I never touched a single dollar. I still haven't. And I just let it sit there, put it in money market accounts or whatever to just gain some interest on it, whatever it may be. But don't touch it until that equity is where you guys have both agreed to. And again, I'm not saying every investor is going to give you a deal like this. You might have to negotiate, but to have zero money down. And if you are to ask everybody, are you going to still gym for another decade? And you're like, yeah, I think so. Cool. Wouldn't you like to have your rent locked? Wouldn't you like to not have to worry about the building going anywhere? Wouldn't you then at the end of 10 years, just magically at 50% ownership in a fucking thing that's got a stacked pile of cash now? And you guys can now distribute it. You can keep it in. You go buy another. You can literally use this and borrow against it and do this, buy another building. There's a lot of options there. And I'll tell you this. When I went from making good money with CrossFit South End to being ramen noodle sandwiches broke. Like broke. I put every dollar I had into this and every dollar I didn't have. I wouldn't, it was the best decision I ever made in my entire life. Because it gave me options. And unfortunately, tomorrow isn't promised for any of us in the small business world. COVID showed that. There's a lot of scenarios. But also, I got a guy just called 2 weeks ago. Wife is very, very sick. He wants out. But he was never planning for the future. And now it's like, what do we do? Like, what is it? And for any of you guys who have a financial planner who's maybe putting money in stocks or whatever, or you've gone on Andrew's Bitcoin train or wherever you're putting your money,
you'd be really happy. You'd be really happy today. You'd be really happy.
Wherever it's going, it's fine. But if you're doing index funds, cool. You better keep feeding that machine for 30 plus years or wait 40 years. This is just probably the most practical, since you're already paying that money monthly. It's the most practical for you to have ownership in the building. And hell, even if you got capped and they're like, yeah, we're not going to allow you to own more than 40% of the property, your investor, whatever it may be. Hell, to own 40% of an asset like that at the very end, which at the end of the 10 years, you could say, I'm out of gym ownership. Let's lease this. And now you're no longer leasing it for $8,000 a month. In 10 years, you could be leasing it out for $16,000 a month. And then you take your 40% of 16,000 passively. You sell your shares in the building. You guys sell the property. You take your 40, whatever it may be. I mean, that's all into the complicated nature of creating a PA partnership agreement. But this is
What's so funny, Stu? What's so funny about this, and same thing, Bill, is like, I know for a fact if I paid Stu, I don't know, $200, whatever, to give that pitch to my member who just got Spirit of the Open, he bought my Airbnb off me because he heard me talking. It was like giving me stress. And he's like, well, what do you want to leave? And he wrote me a check. He makes money. It's a good Airbnb. I just didn't want my wife to do it. If he heard that exact thing Sue just said, we would be buying our building in a week, because he has to have places to put cash, because his wife makes so much money that it's a tax advantage for him.
Is everyone familiar with the 1031 exchange?
Yes.
So it's 1031 exchange. Yeah. So when you own assets, you sell them, you pay a capital gains tax. To avoid that, especially in real estate, you can roll a 1031. So I've got a gym owner, bought his building. We're selling it. We're rolling it into another building. Better opportunity. But you roll that money into the next purchase. You get to defer your capital gains. So, I mean, there's a lot of, again, you guys have people and you're like, I didn't really know he had it like that. He drives a shitty fucking Tacoma. And you're like, no, this guy's probably a 1%er in your market. But that's the incredible thing about a gym's membership base, is that there are people and they see an opportunity. It's not completely altruistic. They're obviously going to benefit from this financially, but you do hold a very good golden ticket with an SBA loan. And the fact that you're a reliable tenant, assuming you're a reliable tenant.
Stu, on a commercial loan, an SBA loan like that, and you have an investor partner, are they actively involved in that application process?
Yes, they are.
And do you have to show, like on residential? So I've never done a commercial loan, but I've done a bunch of residential. You have to show where your money's coming from, the deposit.
Correct. Yep.
When they see a partnership, when they see let's say a gym owner that doesn't have a lot of liquidity, and then they have the guy with the person with all the money, does it have to be balanced?
Nope. They know exactly what that is. The SBA is like, oh, I get it. You're Mr. Moneybags and you're the sweat equty guy. You're the guy without any money, but you're going to be the tenant in the building. They're good with that. That happens frequently.
Okay.
There's a company.
Really?
Look up Withco. WITH, I think it's /CO. It won't help any of us because they will not do the gym industry. Trust me. But they're essentially a fund that will buy buildings for very specific small businesses and then give them a lease to own option within it to then own it outright. So it's a cool concept, but yes, but to answer your question, banks see ideas like this all the time. Investors want to buy buildings, but they'd like to buy it with a tenant that's cash flowing. That's the idea. So whenever you have a personal connection, like with the gym real estate company, we get applications that come across and be like, I want to lease a building. I'm like, you're clearing $72,000 a month. The fuck are you leasing a building for? Fuck, I'll sign on and buy a building with you. You'd be a great tenant. I'd love to have you. Right? Like there are some people that are, you go and you look at it and you're like, man, you're an SBA's wet dream. They'd love that. That's what the SBA is here for. They're here to help small business owners gather some wealth, because the more people buying commercial real estate, the better it is for the economy, and so on and so forth.
I didn't know that you could get that partnership, and what you're saying is they care less about what you have coming in because your 1%er is in on your partnership. Because full disclosure,
if you come in with a credit score of 280 and you got debt out the ass as a gym owner, I mean, they're gonna look at you as the entity, as the tenant, just like as if you were leasing a building. If you got a shit credit score, gym owners, if you are in debt out your ass as a business and a person, you wouldn't get a lease either at today's level. Like landlords are looking at things, lenders are looking at things, unless it's a mom and pop deal. So they're going to scrutinize you to the same degree because you're the tenant. Yes, you have ownership in the holdings company, but that's not what they care about. They don't care what you guys do with your money afterwards. They care about the loan getting the DSCR. And who pays the DSCR? Not the commercial real estate holding company, right? They're at the end of the day, it's tied to them, but it's the ability of the tenant to pay that.
So what if you were like me and you use Insight Tax and they only, God, they show, I think my W-2 from my gym's only like 11 grand a year or something like that. But we show profit, all the things. That being
Are you an
said,
S corp?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're an S corp, you're going to get lenience on that because they're going to see your distributions and stuff. I mean, they're going to
sure.
They're going to calculate it accordingly.
But let's just say I'm a guy who has cash, and I want to do that same deal you just did, just to go easier on the paperwork. I almost have an asset now, being the SBA. You know what I mean? So like what Bill's saying, instead of paying the $3 grand, what if I had the amount of money to bring? So he pays 20 or whatever the down payment is. What if I had the cash? Now I write the deal similar to how you just did, except I just give him the cash, and then Bill, we don't worry about the $3 grand each month. Additional.
You mean
that
like if you're talking the investor is the bank? The investor pays for cash for the whole building, no bank needed?
No. We still use the SBA because it's such a good asset. We still go through it that way, except let's just say instead of having zero money, I actually have money.
Yeah.
So you could do it that way too, Bill. I don't know. That probably didn't make sense. It probably was choppy, but it made sense in my brain. Instead of paying the $3 grand over 10 years or whatever to bring me to 50, if I had enough cash up front.
Oh yeah, you could buy your equity up front. Yeah, of course. You could buy. I was just showing that in case you were zero money in, because I always get asked that question. How do I do this if I don't have any money? And again, there might be a reason you don't have any money, and that reason doesn't matter what I think. It's going to be what the bank thinks, and you got to have your financial hygiene together. But yeah, it's a legit opportunity to do it. And the biggest thing is finding the right person to partner with. And here's one, I get this often: do not co-op. All right, I'm going to do like a Kickstarter. I'm going to get like 15 members. They'll throw in. I'm going to fuck that. First off, the bank will run away from it. They will say, get out of here. You don't want it. It's too complicated. If you want to get 2, 3, 4, 7 people all talk about how they want to exit and when they want to exit and what percentage they want. So it's crazy. One other person, that's it. Just keep it simple.
Sweet. We had, we only had a couple people drop, but I appreciate your time. Does anybody have any last minute questions? If you're gonna go ahead, Dan.
It froze a little bit on me, but is there any way to use, as far as following you get that holding company, any way to use retirement assets so that down the line, say if you sell it, instead of paying capital gains on that big sale of the business or even distributions, you could put it inside some sort of qualified account, so that in essence you're getting tax-free or tax-deferred stuff.
I'd tell you to reach out to a QI. So anytime you do anything tax deferred, you need a QI, a qualified intermediary. They're the person that holds the money in between the trains. Like you never even it never sees your account, right?
Yeah.
Talk to a QI and see what other options are out there. Mm-hmm. Potentially, I think that there are. I don't see a lot of them being done outside of the real estate scene, but that's obviously because that's what I do. So, but I would reach out to local, just put in local qualified intermediaries. There's plenty of firms probably in your city.
Okay.
Yeah. I threw my email address down there. If you guys have any more questions or anything like that, you feel free to reach out anytime. But yeah, it's something where, again, I haven't seen anybody to date, nobody show me a more practical and realistic option for any of us to retire as gym owners. Haven't seen it. Fucking Charlesworth doesn't have the fucking data on Bitcoin yet, right? Index funds take too long. I haven't seen anything better than the real estate play. So, yeah.
I won't argue. I won't argue. We'll do another hour. I would sit here and argue like that one time we were drinking to the podcast. But dude, thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Anytime.
It's been recorded. Guys, reach out and honestly, he helps more people than he'll tell you right away. And I've sent him people and like, I didn't bill them or whatever. Like, and so
Yeah, you guys are
when it-
more welcome. You can get on a discovery call and just get on and we'll just sit down and talk shop. It doesn't cost you anything. We just kind of take a look at it and figure it out. And if you're, you know, if you're way off the deep end on the bankability thing, I'll let you know straight up. But otherwise, if there's daylight there, we can talk.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. Bill, good seeing you, buddy.
See you guys.